Okay, in order to solve this problem, which of the following shows the fractions arranged in order from the greatest, we have to look at each option. And each option here gives us the exact same fractions, just in a different order. But none of the fractions have the same numerator or the same denominator. So we're going to have to change the fractions to equivalent forms. So when I'm looking at the fractions, I have to see I have 1/2, 7/12, and 3/4. So I look at the denominators to see what they have in common. How are they related? Well, I can tell they're all even, but I'm going to see that I could make all of them have a denominator of 12. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Since I have all the same three fractions, I can just do it once at the bottom. So what I write first is I write 1/2. And if we think about it, we could think that 1/2 would be equal to something with a denominator of 12. So at first I wouldn't have this 6 here. I would think, okay, 1/2 is equal to something with a denominator of 12. I can look at the denominator and see that it changed from 2 to 12. And I ask myself, what rule happened there? To get from 2 to 12, it got bigger, so we must have multiplied and not divided. Well, what can I multiply by 2 to get to 12? Then I find out my rule is 6. Well, whatever I do on the bottom, I have to also do on the top, so I say the numerator, I multiply by 6, and then I'll get 6/12. So as I see, I could also have thought about it as just 1/2 if I want it to be out of 12. What's half of 12? 6. So now I have 6/12. The other fraction that I have to change is 3/4. So I write 3/4 over here, and I know I want it to have a denominator of 12. So I write pretty much that. And now I'm looking at the denominators, and it went from 4 to 12. So I think, well, how did I get it to go from 4 to 12? It got bigger, so I must have multiplied. So what can I multiply by 4 to make 12? 3. So once we find out our rule, we know whatever we do on the bottom, we have to do on the top. So I say, okay, my rule is to multiply by 3, so 3 times 3 is 9. So now I have my new fractions. I have 6/12, and I have 9/12. Well, my original fraction that I didn't have to change was 7/12. Now that they all have the same denominator, I can compare them. My directions said to go from the greatest, so I look at my list and I see that 9/12 was the greatest. Okay, so that means 3/4 should be listed first. Well, if I look at my options, there's only one option that listed 3/4 first, but I'm going to check it just to make sure. So next greatest would be 7/12, so that should be second. I'm going to check. There we go. And the least would be 6/12, so that should be last. And originally 6/12 was equal to 1/2. And there we go. So the answer is B.